Hey everyone, in this tutorial we will learn how to create a simple Selenium framework with Java. If you are new here, click that subscribe button. Firstly, we have to create a new Maven project. Click Create New Project, select Maven, finish, and that's it. Next, we must add Selenium dependencies. We can copy them from mavenrepository.com. Search for Selenium Java. Pick the latest stable release. Copy its Maven dependency. Go to the project in the pom.xml file. Create the dependencies tag and paste the dependency. Repeat the procedure for the Java client dependency. And the same goes for the TestNG dependency. I recommend you to make sure that all these dependencies have been imported into the project. So click this re-import button, and each of these dependencies will be displayed under the dependencies tab. We will be using the Chrome browser, so we have to download the Chrome driver. Simply search it on Google. Its release depends on our browser's version. Let's check that out. The Google Chrome browser is 83. It means that we have to download this Chrome driver. I am using Linux. And the Chrome driver has been downloaded. Personally, I prefer to move the Chrome driver file directly into the project so everyone can run the test pointing to the same file. To do that, we need to create a resources folder under the test package. So right click on test, new directory, resources, and move the Chrome driver into it. Great, it's time to write the first test. To do that, right click on the Java package, new, create a new class called user action. The first test implies accessing an e-commerce website and create an account. Don't forget to put the test annotation provided by TestNG. Use the WebDriver interface and create a new Chrome driver instance. To avoid an illegal state exception, we have to set the path to the Chrome driver as a JVM property. Let's set an implicit wait so the test can wait for a web element to be displayed in the website so it can use it. And if you want to have a maximized browser during the test execution, you can use the following line of code. Great, it's time to access the website. Let's have a look into the website. So the first action is to click this sign in button. Right click on it, inspect. So this is our element. There are multiple ways to locate it, for example by ID, name, link, CSS selector, XPath, and so on. However, we will learn about all these methods in further tutorials. For now, let's stick with XPath. In terms of XPath, there are also multiple procedures to get it. Firstly, you can create it by yourself, analyzing the HTML structure. Secondly, you can simply right-click on the element and click Copy XPath, or you can simply use a browser extension, for example, ChroPath. It will generate the locators for you. In one of the previous tutorials, I already showed you how to use this extension. However, I will attach its link in the description below. In terms of stability, if I don't know how to create the XPath by myself and I have to choose between using an extension versus copying the element, I would strongly recommend to use the extension. Let's interact with this element in the project. Choose a way to copy the XPath, go into the project, create a new web element, so we clicked the button. It's time to see the next action. We have to insert an email address, then click the Create an Account button. Let's take it step by step. Firstly, we have to locate this email address input field. We repeat the procedure, basically right click on it, then copy its XPath, insert a value, and now we have to click the create an account button. Firstly, we locate it. So this is it. The test will insert an email address, then it will click the create an account button. Let's see what happens. There are a few mandatory fields to type into to complete the registration process. Let's start with the first name. As you can see, we couldn't use the first name element because the other one displayed in the address section has a totally different XPath. Hence, it has to be a new web element. The same goes for the last name field. Selecting from a drop-down menu is a bit different. Firstly, we have to find its locator. So if we have a look into the HTML structure, we notice that we have a select element with multiple options. Okay, create a new select instance in the project. Providing the locator as an argument. So this will provide us some extra methods that we can use in order to select one of the options displayed in the drop-down. So now we can simply select by visible text. We choose New York because it will be one of the options displayed in here. Let's move on to the zip code. In the country we have another drop-down menu, but we already know what is the procedure and how we should handle it. So again, locate the element, create a new select instance, paste the locator, use the instance to call the select by visible text method and pass the value as an argument. So one of the options will be United States. We also need the mobile phone. And finally, we add an alias for the address. Okay, so far we completed all these mandatory fields. The last action that we have to do on this page is to click the register button. Great. Let's see what happens next. Let's complete for all these mandatory fields so we can go to the next step. Nice! It looks like the account has been created. The last step in our test is to validate the completion of this process. Hence, we have to make an assertion to verify that an element is displayed only on this page. For example, we can assert that this text is displayed, or the username is displayed, or the sign out button is displayed. It's up to you. Basically, all these elements are displayed in the page only when the account has been created. In this example, I will assert that the sign out button is displayed. Let's do that. I will be using one of the TestNG's methods. Our test is finally complete. Let's run it and see what happens. So we have a problem with the Chrome driver's path. Let's check it out. Sorry, it's a typo in here. It has to be user.directory. Run it again. So we have a problem with the value inserted into the zip code. It has to contain 5 digits. Update the value and rerun the test. Okay, the execution has been finished. So the test passed. You may notice that the browser remains opened. To close itself after each test, you have to pass driver.quit. Because we have an account now, let's create another test that verifies the login functionality. Create a new method called login test. Don't forget about the test annotation. To make the things work, we have to place all these WebDriver properties in the new method as well. We could simply copy-paste them, but it's not a wise decision. Hence, TestNG provides a really nice feature called hooks. With hooks, we can create a method that executes before each test using the before method annotation. Cut the WebDriver code and place it directly into the setup method. We can do the same thing for the driver.quit method because we want to close the browser after each test. For that, we can create another method that uses hooks, this time adding the after method annotation. Cut the code and place it into the teardown method. If you hover the driver instance, you will notice an error because its scope is only in the setup method now. The fix for this is to declare the driver outside the method. It's time to continue with the login test. Let's see what the steps are. Firstly, the home page is automatically accessed by the setup method. The next step implies clicking the sign in button. We notice it's the same element used in the register test. Because this tutorial focuses on the basics, for now we can simply copy and paste it into our login test. But please keep in mind that in general it's not a good approach to duplicate the code. A fix for this scenario is resolved by something more advanced, a design pattern called page objects. In this, you will have separate classes that store web elements and user actions that can be simply reused. The next step is to locate the email address and the password and fill these fields with the credentials that we generated in the previous test. This will be the value for the email field. And this will be the password. The next step is to click the Sign In button. Let's see what happens next. We successfully logged in. We notice the Sign Out button is displayed, hence we can use the existing assertion from the register test. Let's do that. Please make sure you copy both the Sign Out web element and the assertion itself. Let's run it and see what happens. Oh, we got a compilation error saying that the Sign In button is already defined. Indeed, we used the same name for the Sign In button displayed in the home page. We can fix this out by simply renaming the Sign In button into Login button. Run it again. Voila! The login test passed. So far, we've seen how to run each individual test, but how can we run all the tests that are present in a class? We can do that in IntelliJ in two ways. Firstly, you can right-click on the file name and click Run User Action in our case. Otherwise, you can open up the file and on the same line with the class name, you have a green icon that allows you to run the tests from here as well. Before running the tests, the register scenario will fail because the test will try to create another account with the same email address that already exists in the database. The best practice for this would be to create a method that generates a random email address each time, but we will cover that in another tutorial. For now, let's modify the current email address. I will simply add another test word. So the email address will be testtestjohndoe@gmail.com. Run all the tests and see the result. It started with the register test. And it continues with the login scenario. Both tests passed. The next question is, what happens if we have tests structured in multiple class files? Then we would right-click on the project name and select Run All Tests. There are also other ways of running the tests, using the command line or config files, but we will cover this in another tutorials. For now, focus on running them via IntelliJ.